On a quiet Thursday afternoon in May 2026, the heart of one of the greatest races in NASCAR history stopped beating. Kyle Busch was only 41 years old. Less than 18 hours earlier, he had been standing inside a Chevrolet building on his own 2 feet. By the time his family released the truth about what had taken him, the entire racing world was already in tears. Kyle walked into the General Motors Charlotte Technical Center on Wednesday, May 20th, just to test a driving simulator, something he had done hundreds of times before. Around 5:30 that evening, something inside his lungs gave way. Staff members found him on the bathroom floor, struggling to breathe, with blood on his lips. Someone grabbed a phone and dialed 911, their hands shaking so badly they could barely hold it. The caller even asked the ambulance to come in without sirens, hoping to spare Kyle from a crowd gathering outside the building. But here is the thing that will stay with you. The warning signs had actually been there for weeks. Doctors quickly found what they were up against. Kyle had developed severe pneumonia in both lungs. That infection had already crept into his bloodstream and triggered something called sepsis, a condition where the body's own immune system turns on itself, attacking its organs in a desperate attempt to fight back. Once that process starts, every single minute matters. The doctors worked through the entire night, pushing every treatment they had. But by Thursday morning, less than 18 hours after Kyle had walked into that building, his body simply could not fight anymore. Now go back to Saturday, May 10th. Kyle was racing at Watkins Glen in upstate New York, and after the checkered flag he came over the radio asking for a doctor. He was fighting a sinus cold, and the high speeds and elevation changes had made him feel awful all afternoon. He still finished 8th. That right there tells you everything about this man. 5 days later, on May 15th, he showed up at Dover Motor Speedway for a Truck Series race, still sick, still competing. And he won. That victory was his 234th across NASCAR's top 3 divisions, more than any driver in the history of the sport. Nobody in the entire world has ever won more races than that. Standing in victory lane with sweat still rolling down his face, Kyle grabbed the microphone and said something that now sounds like a prophecy. He told reporters that you take whatever wins you can get, because you never truly know when the last one is going to come. He told everyone to cherish them all. And then he said, "Trust me." Those 2 small words sit very differently now, because 3 days later, on Sunday, May 17th, he climbed into his Cup car for the All-Star race at Dover and finished 17th. Nobody knew it at the time, but that was the last lap Kyle Busch would ever drive in NASCAR's Top Series. The next day, he sat down and wrote a birthday tribute for his son Brexton, who was turning 11. He shared a family photo and talked about how proud he was. Samantha posted her own tribute that same afternoon, calling Kyle the most incredible husband and father a family could ask for. 48 hours later, he was on a bathroom floor. And what this family had fought just to exist will break your heart completely open. Samantha first met Kyle at a Chevrolet promotional event in 2007. She was a psychology student. He was 22 and fresh off his Rookie of the Year season, and the first thing she noticed was that he had been assigned a better job than her that day. She climbed into the car beside him, made a small joke about his t-shirt, and the rest unfolded slowly from there. They married on the very last day of 2010, at Holy Name Cathedral in Chicago. But what the public did not know for years was how hard this couple fought just to have a child. Samantha went through round after round of in vitro fertilization, painful miscarriages, and emotional breakdowns. In one interview, she admitted that the word divorce had started to feel real, and that fear had become her daily companion. Kyle, she said, was her rock through every single moment of it. Their son Brexton finally arrived in May 2015, the same year Kyle won his first Cup championship. That miracle inspired Samantha to start a charity called the Bundle of Joy Fund, which has since helped pay for fertility treatments for more than 100 families across the country. Over 100 babies exist today simply because she refused to let her own pain go to waste. But here is where the story gets even heavier. After another miscarriage and a failed embryo transfer, the couple worked with a surrogate to have their daughter Lennox, who arrived in May 2022. Samantha called her Tiny Peanut and shared the news through tears of pure joy. Think about that for a moment. This woman spent 15 years fighting just to build her family, against her own body, against heartbreak, against the fear of losing the man she loved most. And then, on an ordinary Wednesday evening, the man who held her through all of it collapsed on a bathroom floor. The promises he made to his children are now hers alone to carry. And those promises weigh something enormous, especially when it comes to Brexton. By 5 years old, Kyle had already strapped him into a tiny race car. By 2024, the boy had racked up 48 junior racing victories. By 2025, he had won the INEX Bandolero Bandits National Championship and the Tulsa Shootout Junior Sprint title, the famous Golden Driller Trophy every young racing kid in America dreams about. His career junior wins had climbed past 150. Kyle had a clear plan: late models by 12, super late models by 14, and eventually a path to Cup glory. Just one day after Kyle passed away, Richard Childress Racing announced that the number 8 would be temporarily retired, sitting untouched, waiting for one specific driver to claim it. That driver is 11-year-old Brexton. What his father never got to finish, a son may one day carry forward. But the fortune Kyle left behind tells a story of its own. By the time Kyle took his final breath, his name was tied to roughly $80 million in wealth. His salary at Richard Childress Racing sat at $16.9 million a year, the highest of any driver in NASCAR. He owned a Lake Norman mansion he had bought for $7.5 million. He had a 35-acre estate in Cleveland, North Carolina, with underground garages and its own off-road track. He had invested in Chevrolet dealerships across 2 states. His car collection included a rare Lexus LFA worth around $2 million, parked next to the championship cars from 2015 and 2019. On paper, his family will never worry about money again. But Samantha and those children are not crying over what he left behind in dollars. They are crying over what he never got the chance to finish. Kyle was never satisfied with just driving fast. He wanted to own the cars, manufacture them, build something that would last. In 2010, he founded Kyle Busch Motorsports, a truck series team that won over 100 races and launched the careers of Eric Jones, Christopher Bell, William Byron, and Bubba Wallace. But when Kyle left Joe Gibbs racing for Richard Childress Racing in 2023, his team lost its Toyota alliance and performance collapsed fast. By September of that year, he sold the entire operation to Spire Motorsports for around $14.5 million. A few months later, his energy drink brand, Rowdy Energy, shut its doors completely, despite reaching 50,000 stores and raising $13 million in funding. He called the headwinds too strong to push through. He said he needed to refocus on his family and his racing career. And tucked behind all of it was one race that had haunted him for nearly 20 years, one he never got the chance to run. Memorial Day weekend 2026 was supposed to be one of Kyle's biggest weekends of the year. Instead, it became one of the most moving tributes the racing world has ever witnessed. Up in Indianapolis, as the cars exited Turn 4 on lap 17 of the Indy 500, the giant scoring pylon lit up with Kyle's name and the years 1985 to 2026. On lap 18, the entire speedway went silent. The number 18 had been Kyle's car number for 15 seasons at Joe Gibbs Racing. He had 155 Cup races wearing that number. He had captured both of his championships behind it. Dale Coyne Racing even changed the font on their number 18 Indy car to match Kyle's exact NASCAR lettering. And the cruelest irony of all, Kyle had spent years trying to enter that very race. Joe Gibbs had personally blocked his attempt in 2018. A deal with McLaren CEO Zach Brown fell apart at the last minute, and that seat eventually went to Kyle Larson instead. Hours later in Charlotte, all 39 cars rolled out of the garage wearing small black number 8 decals on their hoods. Pole sitter Tyler Reddick led the field around the parade lap with the front row position deliberately left empty. On lap 8, the entire grandstand held up 8 fingers in silence. NASCAR CEO Steve O'Donnell stood beside Samantha, Brexton, Lennox, and the rest of the family on the infield grass and promised the children that their father loved them with everything he had. Kurt Busch walked alone to the painted number 8 on the infield grass, laid down 8 white roses, knelt, and made the sign of the cross. Daniel Suarez, a driver Kyle had once given a shot through his own truck team, won the race in the rain that night. In Victory Lane, Suarez performed Kyle's signature champion's bow and dedicated the trophy to the family. Kyle Busch never won his 3rd championship. He never crossed the famous bricks at Indianapolis. But on one weekend in May, 2 entire racing communities stood completely still to remind his family that he was already enough.